Welcome everyone to the DataDev mini challenges how-to. Now that you can hear me, is where you can ask questions in the Q&A. During the sessions, you can ask as many questions as you want using the Q&A box. We are going to take some questions during the presentation, but also at the end of the presentation, we are going to ask the presenter live the questions. I'm Janine Zanoli, aka Gigi. I'm a developer advocate at Tableau. I'm going to be your host for these sessions. Today, I'm just going to give you an overview of what are the DataDev site mini challenges. And then we have 3 awesome speakers that solve the challenges, and they are going to explain how they solved it and what did they learn during solving the challenges. Mini challenges. Oh, I didn't realize. It looks like the minions are going to a rave party right now. But I just want to say thank you all for joining, for participating. We got so many submissions, and the team, we were really happy to see all your submissions, review them, and yeah, congratulations for all your hard work. It's been already 4 weeks of mini challenges. And I don't know, I should make a bit of how many submissions we got, because there's so many and all of them are different. And I really can see that you are learning as well a lot from these challenges. So congratulations to all the participants and all the winners. And sorry about the minions going to a rave party right now. It's not the right gift. So what are the DataDev site challenges? It's 3 months of fun challenges with 18 challenges in total. Every 2 weeks, we are releasing 3 new challenges with three different levels. So one for easy, moderate, and advanced. We have challenges for everyone. If you just got started with if you are just getting started with our APIs, you can start with the easy one. Or if you're already hands-on with our APIs and you're already aware of the entire developer platforms, you may just jump to the advanced level. We also have category for everyone's extensibility, automation integration, and embedding. Every 2 weeks, we are rotating the categories. So if you're new with the extension, you might do the easy level on extensions, but if you're already advanced with automation and integrations, you can just start with advanced levels. So you can learn as well about the new APIs we haven't heard before. So as mentioned, every 2 weeks we rotate, we release new challenges, but we also have a lot of different virtual events. The second week, sorry for the typo, but the second weeks of the challenges, you are going to have an API focus workshop. We already had a workshop on REST API and extension APIs. The next workshop is going to be next week, is on JavaScript API, so stay tuned for the invitations. And we have also every 2 weeks a webinar by the community, like this, exactly like the one today, where community data devs, passionate data dev, are going to show what their solutions are. So we can't put a price on learning. When you do the challenges, you are going first to learn a lot about our APIs and use cases. But we also have some fun swags for you. So if you're completing level 1, you win a sticker pack. Level 2, a DataDev water bottle. And if you complete level 3, you're winning a t-shirt and a beanie, DataDev beanie. How to win? So first, you need to be part of a developer program. If you are on the call with us, it means that you're already part of a developer program. But if you have any friends or colleagues that want to participate, the first thing they need to do is join the developer program. And each of the challenges have different submission steps. So just check on our page what are these submission steps for the challenges. So all the challenges, all the prices, and all the rules are on one page. So if you have one thing to remember from this presentation, is this page. You have to go, and if you look at the challenges and the submission. We just released new challenges yesterday, and the team, this topic this week is embedding. It's embedding, and last week was automation and integration. And if you need help or you want to connect with other data dev, be sure that you join our Slack channels where you can get to know other participants. And the level 3, you can team up with other data dev to solve it up to 4 people. So why not find a new team member on Slack and get started working together on a level together. So now let's talk about the solution. Our first speaker is Jude. Jude solved level 1 and level 2, I think, but he's going to speak about level 1 and how he solved it. So we were talking with Jude yesterday, and I think Jude is doing the presentation in French, he told me. Is it true, Jude?
Maybe after a couple of years.
So yeah, we were talking, and you learn French, I think, in school. So I was like joking about the fact that next time he's presenting at a data dev challenge or at any data dev, he might do it in French. It's time to practice. Is the WebEx is all yours? We can. Perfect.
Thank you, Gigi. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes.
So to start with, hi everybody. My name is Jude Xavier, and I have over 15 years of experience in consulting services in IT. And most of the work that I've done is on the data warehousing side of the industry. So I started working on Tableau from 2016 from version 9.2, and it's been a fabulous experience with Tableau. And here, right, from the first week of April when the mini challenges started, it's been another rush of adrenaline for me in trying to get into all these different kinds of APIs and getting to know them. So to start with the challenge 1, I wanted to first give us the environment or the prerequisites that I had to solve this challenge. The first thing that you would need is to have a dev site created for you, and it is absolutely free. One of the resources that is available for Tableau developer program. So here on my screen, you'll see I think it's the second link on the useful resources, where if you click this link, you'll be taken to a Tableau online service where you will be able to create a site for yourself. And that will be a first requirement. And then the second one is to have a preferable programming language using which you would want to make the REST API calls to programmatically do your automation. So in my case, I'm using Python, and I'm using Visual Studio Code as the IDE to start to code my program. One of the first things that you would need for level 1 is, if you understand what level 1 challenge is about, is we will be using our REST API to programmatically log in to Tableau server and authenticate ourselves successfully. So as part of this challenge, there are 2 approaches that we can take. One is the normal using our user credentials, namely user ID and password. And the second approach is to use a personal access token. And our first challenge requires us to use directs us to use the personal access token as an approach for us to authenticate ourselves with Tableau server. So the first step here is to set up a personal access token for ourselves. And the way we do that is I've logged into my dev site, and here under our account settings, you should be able to find a section where it says personal access tokens, and this is where you would be creating a personal access token. And what this is, it's just a proxy for your user credentials. Instead of using your actual user ID and password, you'll be using a token name and a token key, which can be revoked at any point in time by you, by the site admin. Or so it is less prone to security issues or sharing issues. So Here, the way you go about creating the token is you can just say, give whatever name you would like, and then say create token, and what Tableau would generate the token name and the secret to you. So you can copy this to your local, and you can save these in your local system or anywhere in your programming language, in your programming code, and we will use this further in our to automate our codes. So now having the PAT created, the next step is for us to start coding with our libraries or Python programming language. So here, the first step for us in the code is to import the Tableau server client module. This is nothing but a wrapper to our REST API endpoints that is part of our Tableau REST API services. Here we import the Tableau server client as TSC. This is the normal default way how we import it. And one thing that we would want to note is initially I had a challenge to search for the correct method on our use for authenticating using a personal access token. This is something that I was not aware of until I attended our workshop on REST API and webhooks last week, where Jack actually walked us through the process of creating the same personal access token and using it in TSC for authentication using PTAs. And after that, I realized that one way we can understand what are all the methods that are part of a particular Python library is to use a simple a dir code. So here I'm just logging into Python. I'm fairly new to Python, by the way, so I'm just getting used to the programming language as such. So here, after we import, the first step is to import the module. Importing Tableau server client as TSC. And here, there is a simple method called dir. You just say dir of the object. It would list you all the various classes or functions or methods that are available as part of this module. And the one that we are interested in is the personal access token auth. So we can also further get help on this method by just saying help tsc dot personal access token. So this would walk us through this would explain what that class is about and what are all the different parameters that we would need to pass through that method to use it in our programming language, in our programs. So this is how I started with getting to know or learning about those options. And to talking about the code as such, so all we have here is we imported the module. We have a couple of variables that are defined to set up the environment. Basically, here I'm providing the server name, the site ID, which is the site ID for my dev site. So here you can get the server name from the URL, and the site ID is the one that you see over here in the URL after site. So you can use those two as server name and site ID configuration, and then when we created our personal access token, you would get a token name and the secret, and that is what we have here. And if you had looked at the method that we just saw in the Python interface, in order to access this method, we have to pass all these three parameters, and this is another server call that we use where we are passing the server name. And here, this attribute or this property tells us that we are going to use the server version, the REST API library, to whatever version that is there present in the server. So after defining all these two, we are going to make a simple auth sign-in call with the with the attributes with the variables that we have defined, and then we are going to make a simple call to the server to get the list of data sources that is present, and then list those data sources as part of the authentication process. So before I run that, I wanted to show you what are all the different data sources that are available. If you see under my dev side, there are currently 2 data sources that is present, Superstore and workbooks by projects. So if I do a quick execution of the code, you would see we were authenticated using the personal access token, and we were able to query the data source and list the data sources that is present in the site, and we also logged out successfully. So this is just a demo of the code that I've submitted for level 1 challenge. And with respect to the resources that I used, I started basically with our mini challenges portal site. And from here, the very first step that I did was I went through the REST API documentation that is there as part of our Tableau resources or help, online help. So here, there are so many examples and so many details that is mentioned that really helped me to understand what those REST API services are about and how I can use it in my programming language of my preference. And that's pretty much it. And of course, Google always comes into play whenever I'm stuck anywhere with respect to the Python or the using the libraries as such. Unless there are any other questions, that's it from my end.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jude. So now we're going to talk about the level 2. So the level 2, you had to programmatically build a list of workbook owners. So how many workbooks was owned by which person on your server? So for that, we have Jeremy. So Jeremy, can you tell us how long did you, I think when you submitted all your challenges, I think in 24 hours, less than 24 hours, if I remember it correctly. Like level 1, 2, 3, I think we posted at 8 on Monday, and you submitted all the challenges before the end of the day on Monday. Was it correct for automation and integration?
Yeah, I am a server admin that uses all the APIs on this, so it involved me mainly deleting code and substituting in the stuff for the challenges. So it wasn't too bad for me on this round of challenges.
You're really humble, but yeah. Jeremy submitted level 1, 2, and 3 in less than 24 hours for automation and integration. So congratulations. And you are going to explain us how you solved level 2?
Yeah. So.
Perfect. We can see your screen.
Okay, great. So my name is Jeremy Harris. I'm the lead BI architect at City of Hope, which is a cancer research hospital in the LA area. So just a quick overview. I tried to keep it really like bare Python. So I'm only using the two Tableau APIs or libraries, the REST API wrapper that Jude just used, and then the Hyper API for the bonus piece. And I'm using 2 data types to note. I'm using lists, which is just a sequence of values. So like apple would be item 0 in list X, banana would be item 1, cherry would be item 2. And I'm using dictionaries, which are key value pairs. So X's value of name is Jeremy, X's value of age is 31. So, and then I'm going to combine those to make a list of dictionaries, which is how I'm going to represent a table-esque structure in a like bare Python terms. So this is the end result in Tableau in a table form, and this is how you represent a key value pair. So basically, can't store columns because it's not a table, or column headers. So there's list, which is kind of rows in the table, and the key value pairs for the values in the row. And so we'll go to my code. At the top, I import those libraries. This is only the pieces of the Hyper API that you need for creating a Hyper file. So declaring those specifically. And up here, I have my Tableau authentication as global variables, because I'm going to use them a few times because I need to get the workbooks once, and I get the users in a different function. So I have it up there so I can reuse it. So going down to main, I call create hyperfile, which passes me into parse data, and that's where I'm going to make my REST API calls with Tableau server client. So this is saying call get workbooks, which is going to log in, get me all my workbooks, page through them, and separate out the actual workbook JSON from the pagination item. And I'm going to get a big ol' array of workbook objects, or small array because it's my dev site with only like 2 workbooks. But we're going to loop through those, list comprehension in Python, and it's a consolidated way of writing a for loop. So it's going to say for all the workbooks I got back, alias them WB, and store all the workbook information in here and a value pair, and then every time it loops through, go call the REST API to get the owner of the workbook information. So it's going to come in here every instance of the loop and say, grab the user ID from workbook and call out to get all the other information about them, like their name and all of that. So then I'm going to flatten it into a list of dictionaries like in my PowerPoint, so it looks more like a table. So these become rows of a table sort of thing, with workbook ID, workbook name, project name, owner name, and that's also using list comprehension. So same thing, just consolidating, looping through every single value returned or row returned by workbooks, and flattening it out to be more of a table structure instead of a tree structure. And here, because I got the same values for each workbook, and I know that these are all required fields, I just grabbed the keys. So these things, the workbook ID, but not the values of one of them, and store it as a columns variable, because I'm going to use that as my columns for Hyper. And then grab the values. So just the data without the grid, without the headers, column headers, and store that in data. I'm going to pass that back. And I can file. So I open up a Hyper process, which is like starting the database engine, create a connection to the .hyper file right here, and that's going to kind of connect the database to this. I'll create a schema called extract, which is what Tableau desktop does by default when it creates a Hyper file. So I'll roll with that, and then define a table in extract named extract. Tableau desktop likes to create Hyper files called extract.extract. And then I'm going to loop through all of my values that I stored in columns and create columns in the table as data type text. And this kind of creates almost like a script to do that, and then actually materializes the table. And then I loop through my data list and add the rows, and that's it. So I will minimize this and we'll see it run. It should show up here. It's always fun to watch it go from nothing to something. There it is, my hyperfile with all the workbooks and the owners from my dev site. That's it.
Thank you. Perfect. I'm clapping if you just. So now let's talk about level 3 with Zach. So level 3 was building a script to email users that didn't use the right naming for the calculate field. I don't know, when you're creating anyone creating dashboards, you have tendency of like keeping the default calculation name, calculation 1, calculation 2, or if you're trying different things, you can do test 2. So you end up with a lot of bad named calculate field. So we want the script to email everyone that has a bad named calculation into the workbook onto the server. So Zach solved all the challenges, I think, and is already working on the new challenges. I saw your submission yesterday. So yeah, he has been really involved in all the challenges and all the levels. So thank you, Zach, for taking the time to present your submission for level 3. So I'm going to give you the control so you can share your screen.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Gigi. All right, so I'm going to share my screen just 1 second here. Okay, so just a quick slide. My name is Zach Geis. I lead the Tableau COE for JP Morgan Chase. I've been using Tableau for a long time.
Zach,
yeah.
We can see your notes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, 1 second. So you don't see my PowerPoint in front of you?
No, we see a black screen right now.
Okay, I think it's the wrong screen. 1 second. Sorry about that.
No problem. It's always WebEx joy.
And sorry, 1 second. It's not wanting to flip the screen. How about this? You see that now?
No, still a black screen. Maybe try to change.
If you don't mind, try and take it away from me. For some reason, it's not.
Yeah, sure.
Let me flip away from the WebEx. There we go. Okay. So if you can hand it back. Sorry.
Now we cannot see anything. I will give you back the presenter. So if you can try to share a screen again.
Okay. All right. See you now?
Yes, we see the PowerPoint. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry about that. So like I was saying, my name is Zach Geis. I lead the Tableau COE for JP Morgan Chase. I've been using Tableau for about 10 years, almost 10 years. And my role requires me to just kind of work with all different facets of Tableau. And so I was really excited to see this virtual series of challenges and was very eager to, actually go and contribute to them and submit my work to them. So as Gigi was mentioning, this is kind of the challenge, level 3, to go in and basically send an email for any poorly named calculated field. I would just kind of highlight the 2 hints here. So there is a page here that talks about the metadata API. If you click into that, a lot of good information about what the metadata API is, how you construct your request, and how you actually access the tool itself. And then also there's some sample code to query the metadata API with the Tableau Server Client Library, which I'll be showing as I move forward. Some other good useful information is this is all built on GraphQL. So before I really even got started, I started to look a little bit into GraphQL itself, and you can find that by graphql.org. It's something built by Facebook, which is, this is kind of an example of what it looks like. You're going to basically pass in the inputs, and then Tableau is going to send you a response when you query. You can see kind of the Star Wars stuff here. We've got the name, the height, and you're asking for that and get a response back. So with all that said, I'm just going to jump over to my sandbox site and show what this looks like. So to actually query the metadata API directly on your server, you're just going to go into the server. This doesn't matter whether it's Tableau server or Tableau Online, as long as you have 2019.3 or above. You're just going to go down to the root of your URL, so the .com, and then just add metadata, and you'll see it auto-completing for me, graph IQL, so graphical. So site metadata graphical. We'll hit enter on that, and that will bring in this nice UI that's built directly into your server. So you can see a little bit about what's going on. It has a nice little intro about how to use this, how to submit some requests, some shortcuts for your keyboard, a couple buttons up here so you can prettify it. So if you have clunky code that you just want to look at it in a nice way, you can see the history, to see all the different things that I've queried inside of here. Of course, there's a run button. And then something also that's very nice is the ability to go over here and actually see the documentation. So you can see if I wanted to start with fields, for example, I type in fields and I actually get some information back about what's available with it. So at the field level, these are the things I can do. So typing an actual query itself is actually pretty simple. So you're just going to go in and actually say, query, and I want, let's just say, fields, and you'll see it kind of autocomplete and tell me some information about it. As I go in here, I can say name, and it's going to pop up and show the different things that I can see. So I might want to see the name and maybe also the ID. And so it's pretty simple. Within the query, which is the overall schema of everything, I want to look at the fields. And within the fields, give me back the name and the ID. And this can continue to kind of nest itself into more information. So I'll just go ahead and hit the run command. It brings it back up directly inside of this interface to show me the list of all those fields, what their name is, and what their ID is. And you can kind of think of all the different ways you could use this to pass through to other different things you want to do with maybe the REST API and other things like that. But for this case, we're going to be setting that email. So I'll flip over to my actual code and show what I'm doing here. So this is all Python. I did all my submissions for this level in Python. A couple things that I brought in. So there's different libraries for requests, the Tableau Server Client library itself, SMTP lib for sending emails, things like that. We have the simple authentication here. So we showed that in kind of the level 1, how we would use this to log in. This is with a name and password, but you could do the same thing with your personal access token. And then that moves into the actual query itself. So not much different than what we've seen on the browser. We've got the query. In here, it's a little bit differently constructed. We're just passing a query and the actual data itself. And it's pretty close to what I showed. We're looking at fields and then the name. But as I mentioned, we're going to kind of go down a couple levels. So within the fields, give me the name, and also give me the data source that it's attached to, and give me the owners that data source is attached to. And at the owner level, give me their email. So kind of going down a few levels just to basically say, what is the name of the field and who is the associated owner and what is their email. So we'll go through there again. So this is actually where we do the login, passed in from all these things up here. So we pass that in, and what we get back is the data sources. So that's just the name I gave it, but essentially we're getting a response that gives me all of the data that I need from my query, all the data that responded from that query in a dictionary format. Then I go through, and there's a couple of different ways that you could do this. In my case, I use the Panda data frame. So essentially, I've taken this data, I've flattened it out a little bit, and converted it into a table structure with a Panda data frame. I looked for very specifically these keywords that were mentioned in the requirements. So calculation 1 through 10, test 1 through 10. There's a lot of different ways that you could probably type this out. This is just one way of doing it. I did a little bit of cleanup to make sure that I've got it in a nice format, and then essentially I'm passing out a table structure that gives me 2 columns, my field and my email. So once I go through that, and again, just to kind of summarize, pass the data in check if it has one of these columns inside of it, do a little bit of cleanup here, and then output these two fields. At that point, I've only got a few different records, and that's passed into this loop that sends the email. So I go through in here, and I basically log into my email account on Gmail. I pass this through. I actually do the login itself. I do a subject of the email, which is poorly named field, the name of the field. I have a body message and all that, and then it just runs through. And just to kind of show that in the end, let's go ahead and I, of course, have this on my desktop. Where else? And we're going to do a Python, and I actually have a different one that has my email still in there. And I think it's run.py, and we'll run that. Goes through, passes me a couple messages based on how I'm doing the Panda stuff, and then I'll just, you see it wraps up. I'll go back to my browser, I'll go into my email, I'll hit refresh. Because I'm the owner, I get these emails, and now I've got two emails that say, for my two different fields, here's a poorly named field called calculation 1. Consider updating this field, your friendly neighborhood Tableau admin. So a lot of possibilities with that, but that's what I did with my challenge.
Thank you, Zach. So now is your time to ask questions to all our three presenters, to Zach, Jeremy, and Jude. If you have any questions, use the chat or the Q&A box on the bottom of right of WebEx. I have questions. So you started using new APIs, almost all of you. Are you going to continue? For example, Zach, you started using the metadata API. Do you see new use cases? Are you continuing to use these APIs now that you learn more about it?
Yeah, specifically the metadata API was new for me. I've used the others quite extensively, but when it comes to the metadata API, there's immediate benefit that I see in there. One example is we do some things to check for sensitive information, sensitive fields. Mm-hmm. And today's process is we run through, download all of the files, and then go through the XML itself, the old-fashioned way. So this in itself is a much easier method and a much simpler method that's going to be quicker to run, quicker to build, and you're going to see a lot of ways that we can integrate that with our other processes.
Perfect. Thank you. Jeremy and Zach, everyone, are you going to share your code after this webinar? We are going to share the recording. We are going to share as well the slides and also the code. Everything is going to be on our YouTube channel, so stay tuned for the recording. If you go to Tableau YouTube channel account, we have a playlist with all the recording of all the previous how-to webinars. And we are going to include the code as well. Let's see, do we have any other question? So I have a question. Will you try, are you going to try the new challenges with us this week in embedding? Zach, Jeremy, and Jude. I know, Zach, you got started with them yesterday. Are you planning to do all the 3 challenges again?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I love the embedding features of Tableau. So I'm excited to get through those. The first one was pretty simple. I definitely plug that for anybody that's interested in learning about embedding. The first challenge is simply just embed a Tableau worksheet. So really simple, and it will show you the basics of how to do it. And I'm excited to go through levels 2 and 3 as well.
Perfect. Jeremy, and are you planning to do the embedding challenges as well?
I'm hoping to. I work in a hospital, so my day-to-day is pretty crazy right now. But if time permits, I'm definitely going to go for it.
Perfect. Jude?
Yeah, Gigi, definitely, because as part of the different roles that I play, Tableau is something that is both near and dear to me. And yes, right now, as part of our project work, we have a portal embedding where we embed our dashboards in a public portal. And I can see me playing around with the different libraries that are functions that are part of the embedding, and get to know more about Tableau embedding and features as part of these challenges.
Perfect. So I'm looking forward to see your submission. So another question, some people ask if you used the developer sandbox site before, and if you used it before, what are the use cases? What did you do using the developer sandbox site? Let's start with Jeremy.
Yeah, I actually use mine all the time.
Good to know.
I get I every time a new version of Tableau comes out, I test out the new features on it, and before it comes out, because they get the beta version. And so, as a server admin, I try to test any feature that I can without uploading real medical data to the site. But usually, there's some sort of replicated use case that I can come up with for each new server feature.
Yeah, the sandbox site is set up with the last pre-release version of Tableau, so it's a great way to try new APIs, new endpoint, and it's a safe space. You're not going to run any code on your production environment. Zach, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to Jeremy's response. We have a lot of environments, and we're always trying to stay updated as well. And I do a lot of speaking about Tableau and webinars like this. So I definitely use the sandbox site all the time. It's free, it's easy to install. It gives you everything that you would need as kind of like a site admin role. So there you can test all the new APIs, the new features, things like that. So I remember before that was available and how it would be very difficult to do those kind of things aside from just at work in your environment. So it's definitely a really nice feature to have.
Thanks. And Jude?
Yeah, Gigi, as Jeremy and Zach said, this is a great feature that is offered to us as part of our developer program, where we get a chance really to play around with the latest and greatest version of Tableau release. And also, in my case, for example, I'm a developer, and mostly as part of our enterprise program, I don't get to play the role of a site admin, or even if I'm a site admin, I'm mostly with the site admin explorer role, not the creator role. So there are certain features that is not available for me to experiment with, which is available as part of our sandbox site. And I can, and also to another point, like if I'm writing any scripts or programmatically, if I want to automate anything, it would be easy for me to do it against a sandbox environment before actually implementing on a full-blown enterprise site where the objects or the content on the Tableau server is more compared to what I have in the sandbox. So this is a great feature that is being offered to us as part of our program.
Thank you. I think that's it for the questions. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to the developer program at tableau.com. Thank you again for your presentation, Jude, Jeremy, and Zach. I think also doing these mini challenges, I get to know new data devs. So thank you again for being awesome. And thank you for all the participants. And we will send you the recording and the code soon. Thank you. Have a nice day, nice afternoon, nice evening, depending where you are. Thank you all.